Hey man, how's it going?
It's going good. How are you?
Welcome. I'm doing well. Welcome to this week's episode of the 9 to 5 Mac podcast. This week we have a ton to discuss, half of which I don't know about yet. So I'm excited to react to the news this week with you. Uh,
Well, the first one is
Mhm.
about CES. Now,
CES, a
uh,
place we used to go. I've gone a couple times.
yeah, I mean, this year, I think anyone would be forgiven to even realize that CES had happened because obviously it was virtual. It was virtual last year as well, but because it was like,
No. It wasn't virtual last
oh
year.
no, it was before, wasn't it? Yeah,
Yeah,
because it's
no,
January.
it
Yeah.
was the super spreader event last year.
Yeah.
They said
It
no.
was the as unyet identified cause for CES. The Yeah, so this year you would be maybe forgiven for noticing that it had even happened because it's hard to even tell. Like, because the big companies nowadays, what like Samsung and stuff, they just have their own events anyway. Even
All
if
the
they're
time
on,
anyway, yeah.
yeah, even if they're on like quote CS week, they just hold
Yeah.
their own stuff.
To
And
me, the Consumer Electronics Show, the event aspect of it is what's exciting, but like the actual core thing that CES is, like the showroom floor part about it,
mm-hmm.
it's so vendors can walk because it compresses like a very small percentage of it, but it's packed with people, and it's vendors who are coming to see the next year of product releases from these companies or what's available at the moment for what to stock in their stores and that kind of thing, like how to plan.
Yeah, like it's called the Consumer Electronics Show, but it's not really a show for consumers. It's
Correct.
more like
Yeah.
a yeah, it's more like manufacturers and buyers and partners and stuff, right?
Right.
Like,
Right.
and that's why there's always those stories of when it is in the real world of like Apple having representation going around the floors. They're trying to see new technology and scope it out, and then
Mhm.
they on behind the scenes they do little deals and stuff, but they never have like a presence. And
Right.
or they haven't had a presence for ever, right? It was or at least because they used to do MacWorld, right?
Not
But
since
not
I've been
not
alive.
CES.
Yeah.
Yeah, the biggest presence they do have is they put those banners up outside the like on the buildings and stuff.
What happens on the iPhone stays on the iPhone.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, and last week they didn't have that, but they did have some privacy ads that they ran. There was a couple of things from CES. Honestly, it was a very quiet year. Like there was some announcements about like some HomeKit stuff, but I think a lot of manufacturers have just okay. There's not a real event going on. We'll just hold our products for when we'd actually want to announce them, rather than because what happens at CES so often is here's what's coming this year from us because they bought the floor space. They want to have stuff to show, but they don't have it ready to anywhere close to release yet. So you see plenty of HomeKit stuff show up at a normal CS year, and it's just like, yeah, this is coming sometime this year eventually. Like Elgato or no, they're called Eve. They show stuff that takes like 3 years to come out. Like I remember when I was like doing a review of like the light switch or the water analyzer, and it was like, yeah, this was first shown at CS 2.5 years ago. I was like, really? Okay. But one thing that was quite funny is that Samsung launched its version of AirTags,
They did
incredibly.
in black.
Yeah, in black. So I mean, how like what? We just know when Apple's come out, they're going to be white only. Like
Yeah.
there's even been some. We haven't covered this on the show yet, but there's been some semi questionable leaks about what the actual AirTags look like chassis design and stuff,
Sure.
and like
Yeah.
quote unquote renders of the real thing, supposedly extracted from iOS software, and they're like circles with a logo on one side, and they're completely white, obviously. And there's no like. What's interesting about the renders is there's no like attachment on them themselves because like the tile tags are like rectangular, but in the like top right corner they have a little
Yeah.
triangle that you can like snap on a clip or whatever.
Mhm.
The leaked Apple tags are literally just circles and
That's because you got to buy the accessories to put them
right.
in.
The running theory is, there was that rumor from Bloomberg a year or so ago where they're going to come with a pouch, maybe the patch be included or you have to buy it extra or whatever. But supposedly the actual AirTag like goes inside a pouch and the pouch has the clip on it that you put on somewhere else, or maybe you're just supposed to like put the AirTag in the bottom of your bag and leave it there or something like. So we'll see how that transpires. The Samsung ones do have clips. They're more tile-like, right? But the only reason they bring these out is because they know Apple are doing it, and it's just been so long in the making that they managed to beat them to the post, which is quite funny.
Tile should be concerned. They should mention Samsung at the antitrust stuff when they make
Yeah,
all the cases for that.
yeah, yeah. Because I'm sure Samsung doesn't let tile appear in their app. Like, what as Tile loves to complain
I
about.
think the big thing on Samsung's is that they only work with Samsung phones, right? There's not all Android phones.
Yeah.
Yeah. So even Tile is like cross-platform. To be Samsung only, man, that's tribal.
Yeah, but that's what that's what the AirTag's going to be, right?
Yeah, but it's a lot of iPhones.
That's the thing. Like, other companies try and do the Apple approach of like, look, this only works with our stuff, but very little of it ever catches on because,
like, I know that iOS and Android are like half and half in terms of
Yeah.
adoption, but like, it's not. Half of it isn't Samsung and half Apple. It's like Apple and then like Samsung and Huawei and Google stuff and
yeah, and Samsung is
Xiaomi or whatever.
at least in the US, Samsung still is a decent chunk of the Android like contingent, but it just doesn't have the same presence. Like when you've got like 50% of the phones sold as iPhones, right? There's even if you've got 20% Samsung of the other bit, it feels like nothing, even though it's not, right? Like I've noticed this trend in so many places, like the TV Plus stuff, right? Netflix obviously so big, like huge, but I think there's just this effect where the big, like if you've got 40% market share, it feels like you're the only one, right? Like because the iPhone feels so dominant, but it's only half in America and even less worldwide. It just kind of like it's so strange how like your brain like mixes up. Anyway, that's a bit of a tangent. But the AirTag stuff the AirTags have been rolling around like so much. There was a big hype on Twitter last week, especially of like everyone had noticed that if you go into like the web browser and you type Find My / like items and then press enter, it like opens up a screen in the Find My app which you can't normally access, which is the items tab, and everyone's like, oh, this clearly means AirTags are going to launch tomorrow. Because do you remember there was all that hype about the big announcement last week and stuff, like, and all that got overblown, but as to what it actually was, which is social initiatives, which is fine, but it wasn't a product announcement. But everyone's like, oh, look, there's going to be AirTags coming out right this second. iOS 14.4 is about to ship. It's going to come with AirTag support. Well, that screen has been available to developers for 3 months, 2 months. Like, you just go in settings and you just enable it and then it shows up. And the reason it's there is, yes, it will be the screen where you manage your AirTags, but also it's there because Apple opened up with iOS 14 the Find My network to third-party accessories, right? And so theoretically, other products can exist which will use the Find My system. And remember, Find My is not just like GPS, it's the Bluetooth beacon stuff. Like, like your laptop can be offline, but because it emits a Bluetooth signal, a passersby iPhone can find your laptop's Bluetooth signal and supposedly find where it is, right? And Apple's in some way opened up the Find My network to third-party accessories. There are a load of limitations, and like Tile's not going to do it because then that means they can't integrate with their own stuff. Like, it can basically, if you opt into the Find My integration, you can't integrate with other networks. You can't do other stuff. Like, you just have to be in the Find My universe, right?
That's an interesting.
Yeah, so it's an interesting limitation.
Yes.
But at CES, they actually was a product announcement for one of these accessories. It's the Belkin SoundForm Freedoms. And these are sort of like AirPods. They have like they have a charging case. They're kind of in ear, but they're not quite as sleek as AirPods and stuff. But they're respectable. They're respectable earbuds, and they are, I think, the first accessory to be announced that is third party that actually integrates with the Find My app. And so, if you have one of these earbuds, or when they ever ship, like I think they just announced them, they're going to be available beginning March/April, so the usual CES clarity on availability, and we don't know how much they're going to cost. They charge with Qi and they have USB-C, and they're earbuds at the end of the day, but they supposedly support the Find My network. So if you want earbuds that support Find My, then here's your ticket.
That's like how Apple leans so heavily on Logitech and Belkin to do the accessories that they don't want to make themselves.
Yeah,
like deals so that they do it for Apple, exclusively do Apple for Apple. Like same thing with the LG display, like in a big way. This is like Apple's like, look, there's something that uses the Find My network that's not Apple. It's open. Tile can use it too if they want. They just have to abandon their whole business. And it's like Belkin did it, but Belkin does things for Apple. Like, it's almost as if Apple did this. They just made like when I saw the product, like I don't know what it's better at than AirPods, or for that matter, other Google's versions or Samsung's versions. I don't know the price, but maybe the price is competitive. But they just look chunky.
The price is unannounced.
Of course it is. Like it's CES. So yeah, these they look like generic, like if you're trying to hide new AirPods inside of them or something. So
Yeah.
what?
It's just funny that they happen to
what
be
a
the
scheme.
first Find My third-party accessory.
I don't count
And
that.
there's
I don't-
no ultra wideband in them, by the way, because that was one of the rumors for like AirPods 3 is that the charging case is going to have UWB in it, so that it can do the cool, fancy like Find My stuff.
I swear, if they use
the
SoundForm Freedoms in like a trial and a hearing to argue that there's not antitrust, that they're no,
that'd be
no.
hilarious. The Find My network is open to everyone. Here's the Bose SoundForm Freedom.
Not even Bose, Belkin, like Apple's.
Oh yeah, but you're not Bose. Yeah, Belkin.
Yeah, man. Yeah, okay,
it is funny, but
okay.
yeah.
Well,
So at
yes.
least it's an existence proof that someone is integrating with the Find My network that isn't Apple itself.
It's like a file maker made something.
Yeah. And then the other news from CES that interests me is there was kind of sort of an announcement of 42-inch OLED TVs.
Okay.
Which I spoke about on the show before because our living room doesn't have the space for anything bigger than literally you could probably fit a 43-inch TV, but it's it's going to be tight even at 43.
Yeah.
And to date, the corner of the room has a LCD TV in it, and when the next Apple TV comes out soon, hopefully,
It's
right?
just around the corner. It's imminent.
Just around the corner. It's got to be, right? It's coming sometime this year.
It's the next Apple TV to come out.
It is the next one to come out.
Whenever it
And
is.
obviously it will support 4K because the last one did. So when that comes out, I've decided I want to change the TV because the TV's 1080p. It's not, it's not 4K or anything in there. It's quite old. But I really want an OLED one. And one of the reasons I haven't updated it for, today is that the smallest OLED TV you could buy today is 48 inches. And so it just wouldn't fit in the space. I was like, do I want to buy a QLED? Do I want to buy an LCD again that's just slightly better? I don't know. So I've just been holding it off. But CES, finally, LG announced that they are making display panels, OLED panels that are 42 inches in size. This is specifically LG Display announced this. LG Display is the manufacturer of the panels. They're not the people that actually make the displays that you actually buy. So they just make the panels. So LG's announced this, and now we have to wait for someone, maybe LG Electronics, to announce that they're actually going to ship a 42-inch television, an OLED television. But at least the panel exists now, because the panels just weren't being made at all before. So maybe at some point this year, or maybe next year, there'll be a 42-inch OLED TV, and I'll be very happy. And it'll probably be really expensive, because it's going to be the niche size. So it'll probably be like... Because the 48-inch ones cost more than some of the 55-inch ones, because they're less popular. So the 42-inch one's probably also going to be really expensive. But that's what fits in the space, so I guess I have to buy it.
Oh, good luck with your television.
Happy Hour this week is brought to you by Audible. Start your Audible subscription at audible.com/9to5mac to get one book a month with your Audible credit, and the first 30 days are free. Finding the time to sit down and read a book is hard, and as much as we all want to read more, it just never really happens with the day-to-day life distractions. But listening to audiobooks is so much more convenient. You can do it whilst you're working, exercising, or maybe just like cooking dinner. Enjoy great stories with Audible. I know, Zach, you use Audible a lot, so what have you been listening to recently? Anything you can recommend?
How much time do you have? Yeah, no kidding. Like you asked me before the podcast, what have you been reading and everything for the spot? And the truth is, like, I used to buy a lot of ebooks and I never read the ebooks. I didn't have time or interest. And I'm an actual Audible subscriber. I have 2 credits right now that are free for my next books. But no, I read. I read A Promised Land by Barack Obama. You might remember him. Mm-hmm. It's about 28 hours long, so you can imagine what reading it yourself is like. And for me, like, I don't have. Well, here's my excuse. I don't have time to read because I read online all day for work. And so the last thing I want to do is like keep reading, whether it's a book or a screen. And so I love podcasts and music and audio. And so I listen to books. And I did a 12-hour drive, which was part of the book. I did a 12-hour drive to come back, and that was part of the book. And I think it's like 28 hours, I think, is the total length of that book. So perfect use of Audible. And the next thing is something a little bit different. I have audiobooks to get to. The End of Everything, astrophysically speaking, the description is from one of the most dynamic rising stars in astrophysics, an accessible and eye-opening look at 5 ways the universe could end. These are all real, and they're very interesting to me. And it's like kind of that. It's neat. It's only 6 hours, so that's The End of Everything by Katie Mack. And then I'm a big fan of the artist Peter Frampton, who's from the UK, so you might not be familiar with him, but he's rock star, rock legend, and he recently wrote his memoir, Do You Feel Like I Do? And it's 10 and a half hours of him narrating his life story. And I think that's so cool. So those are my 3 books that I've got for you this week.
Cool. So if you want one of those, you can get them on the standard plan with your 1 book credit. And Audible's also recently launched its newest plan, which is called Audible Plus. Audible Plus includes full access to the Audible Plus catalog. That means for 1 monthly fee, you can listen to thousands and thousands of hours of select audiobooks and podcasts, as well as Audible originals that you can't find anywhere else. So to get started, visit audible.com/9to5mac or text 9to5mac to 500 500 and get a 30-day free trial. Once again, that's audible.com/9to5mac for your first 30 days free trial.
Thanks, Audible. Bloomberg has a new report today about kind of a scaling back of Apple's augmented reality headset, with the first device will actually be kind of their strategy and getting their foot in the door with a headset of some kind. So what's the story, Mayo?
Yeah, like it's probably worth doing a short recap of just like AR to date, right, on the rumors side, because you've got like for I'd say 4 years now we've been hearing about Apple's been working on this headset thing. And then I'd say that was kind of bobbing along for a while. It started off a bit like the car, where it's just kind of like in the background, and then it's got more and more relevant. And even Ming Chi Kuo said that it was going to ship in 2020, and now that didn't happen. But I think 3 years ago, Bloomberg had a report that Apple had about 1,000 engineers working on this headset, and including ROS, which is like Reality OS, to join their other platforms. And there was this, for a while, there was this kind of dual rumor that Apple's been working on this, like, quote, headset for, virtual reality, augmented reality applications, and they're also working on AR glasses, which, as the name would suggest, are less like the gaming headsets, are more just something that you could wear like you wear glasses now, right? And so they would fit more into your life, and they would be augmented reality,
more in the Google Glass,
Google Glass sphere, yeah. But Google Glass wasn't really like augmented reality, like it was, but it was mostly like you got a little screen in the top right that just overlaid information that you could see, but the information wasn't really like attached to the world around you. If you see what I mean, it was just kind of like almost like an Apple Watch in the top right of your face. The idea of the Apple glasses, they'd be like proper augmented reality experiences. These ideas have been going back and forth for a while and swirling around, and it kind of seems like they're both right. So what Bloomberg says at the moment is that the glasses stuff is happening, but it's many years away. Like it's not close to fruition, which I think we've talked about on the show before, right? Like the feasibility of AR is that you need a lot of processing power, which requires big, chunky processors that need heating and need to be cool, and it also uses a lot of power, so you need a big battery. But that doesn't really gel with slim, lightweight glasses you can just put on your face that don't look like a cyborg and actually can do interesting stuff.
Tim Cook really wants to make this product where you can have a conversation with somebody and see like relevant information about them, or like go into a restaurant and see a menu in front of you, or like information about the food that you're eating, that kind of thing. He's spoken about that openly as like, imagine a future where this exists. And then they've got AR Kit, which is maturing every single year, which they show these really cool augmented reality demonstrations holding up heavy iPads and that kind of thing. And there's even like the John Gruber interview with Jaws, and then the fellow in charge of AR.
The person no one can remember. Yeah,
his name is Mike
Shoemaker, something like that.
Things are to be. I only slightly remember it because there's someone who I follow on Twitter with that same name, but it's not them. Anyway, Mike, AR Mike, and he even asked like, wouldn't holding up the iPad, wouldn't this be great with glasses? And it's like wait and see kind of thing. And then they put LiDAR on the iPad, and they put LiDAR on the iPhone, and that's all augmented reality related, because it's
they put LiDAR on the devices, but they still didn't really give you like stuff to use the LiDAR with.
You can do AR and put your hand in front of the thing, right? Is that LiDAR?
Yeah.
related.
Yeah.
One of the an AR app that I enjoy in real life is called Pocket Rocket, and it's meant to track SpaceX rocket launches. Plus, it's got really good widgets, but it's also got really good augmented reality, well designed rocket mock-ups, and you can put them in the surface of your home or wherever you are. And in the latest update, which I think uses LiDAR, you put your hand in front of it, and your hand it goes in front of the rocket, even though it's behind. It
Yes.
fakes it really well.
Yeah, it can work out the relative depth of the things.
Right.
So, although the object can basically be obscured by something put in front of it. Yeah.
Correct.
And they have, I think that works without LiDAR too, but less good, if you see what I mean.
Less reliable. Okay.
Yeah, like at its core, it's like a software algorithm that's just working out, and computing it. But if they've got the LiDAR information, it can be more accurate. It's kind of like portrait mode.
Yeah, and all of these things will be as they mature, they'll be ready for the headset whenever the headset's possible.
Yeah.
It's why they're doing it. They're not doing it because they make the iPhone better.
Right, yeah.
Who cares?
I mean, the LiDAR stuff for the phone, it does help with their best case for it is that it helps with autofocus, because instead of having to focus at night using the optical sensors, they can do LiDAR instead. Yeah. But there's no AR to that, right? That's just a cool sensor depth of trick. And obviously, we all know what they want to make is these cool glasses, but they can't because it's just not possible. So what Bloomberg has a pretty detailed report today is on a product that they're going to ship maybe by the end of the year, maybe early next year, like that kind of time frame, right? So, and remember, Quo said that they're going to have an AR device of some description coming out this year, right? Like maybe it's just for developers only, but that's what he said. What Mark says is that Apple's first AR device is going to be mostly focused on VR. So all their cool AR overlaying with the real world stuff, forget about all that. Like, it might be able to do some of that, but it's going to focus on a VR headset, more like what we see with like the Oculus Quest from Facebook and stuff like that, right? Like the existing kind of products on the market. Here's what's going to rile everybody up. It's going to be super expensive.
Cool. Only way I'll buy it is if it's super expensive.
So if you thought AirPods Max are expensive, get ready, because Mark obviously doesn't say an exact price, but he says that Apple's insiders, Apple's product teams are scheduling for and expecting it to be much more expensive than its rivals, and he quotes rivals that are in the $300 to $900 range. So it's going to be much more expensive than $900. So get your wallet ready.
My first feeling on this was gaming focus. So this is like an enhancement to Apple Arcade, even though it's not AR, it's VR, but it's a play. They don't make a controller really, but it could be an Apple TV accessory or an iPad and an iPhone accessory or a Mac. Works with Arcade. Then the next thing I'm thinking is, do you recall when they did, I think it was a Mac Pro or maybe iMac Pro, when they demonstrated AR on a Star Wars game?
Yeah, that was the iMac Pro, yeah.
And I think they used an HTC headset that maybe doesn't exist anymore. VR headset.
HTC Vive.
I don't think is around anymore.
I think they make some version of it, but it might not be I don't follow AR too close. I don't follow the VR space.
Yeah, I mean, me neither.
It's Vive. I think they have a new version. I don't know if it's called the Vive, but HTC make a headset. Yeah.
Yeah, I know a couple. I know from following NASA the past year that NASA relies on that headset to do VR training for missions in space with virtual reality, and it's the person walking, they can't see their actual, environment, and then they see what they're, intended to see. They're there. So maybe Apple is making, I for some reason, I think that HTC isn't doing well in that area. Maybe
none of these sell well.
And that this could be meant for, not consumers, but pros, a professional market to
industry users.
Industry users, because there's not they relied on HTC then,
because that's really what Apple loves to make, products for industry.
Yeah, I think the closest thing these days would be HoloLens from Microsoft. That you could get, and I think what this could be based on Mark's report is that they could say, it's not meant for the masses, it's meant to have a solution that you can't find otherwise, where they relied on HTC a few years ago. This would be their version of that.
Yeah, I mean, a fair comparison would be like the Mac Pro, right? The Mac Pro is almost sort of made for industry,
right?
It has very specific work.
Very much so.
Yeah, it's not for consumers.
And a few enthusiasts,
Yeah. Yeah, like, so this would be the Mac Pro of VR headsets, but what is the market for that? It's very, 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 very small. Like, getting people to buy a $400 AR headset would be a challenge. Like, a $4,000 one, like, forget it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But apparently Apple isn't fazed by that. They're already planning to be able to sell one per store per day, which if you times it out, that means they're going to sell 180,000 in a year, which for Apple is incredibly low volume.
And that's optimistic. So
yeah, I mean, I'd be impressed if they can sell one in every Apple. Like, they can sell a $3,000 headset every day in every store. That'd be, that's almost incredible. If you know what I mean. But if at Apple scale, that's like peanuts. Like 180,000 units. Like, Apple sells what, 700,000 iPhones a day. Like, selling 180,000 VR headsets in a year. It's a very small fry. But the whole point of this product supposedly is that it's just kind of like the first step towards what they actually want to ship. Mark does say that maybe this thing will never come out and maybe they'll just release it for like a developer test kit type of situation. But apparently they're looking to ship it for real because one of the things that they had to contend with is the heaviness of it. So supposedly it's all standalone, right? So there's not like, how the PlayStation VR works, it like communicates with the PlayStation and it's just like a remote. Well, this Apple headset, which is going to be umpteen $1,000, is supposedly standalone. It will have super high powered chips and high resolution displays, which obviously you need to have a nice experience because you have to fake what your eyes can see. According to Mark's report, the chips inside are faster than the M1 chip, so they aren't mobile chips, they're like laptop chips, supposedly, in terms of performance, but they get hot even in a small frame. So the product's going to have a fan in it. So this headset will supposedly have a fan in it, but then adding a fan to it made it really heavy. So to counteract the weight, supposedly the current prototypes don't have any space for inserting standard glasses, right? So like a lot of these headsets, if you put them on and you already have vision issues, you can put your glasses on first and then put the headset over the top, right? Supposedly these won't be able to do that. What Apple's going to do instead is rely on custom prescription lenses that you can buy. So that's a whole ordeal. Like, think of how much complexity there is in Apple selling prescription lenses of their own to be able to release a product that's going to sell 180,000 units a year. Like, it seems kind of insane to me.
This is so abstract and unappealing at this point. Like, what?
And it's going to be made of fabric to also make it lighter, rather than like a aluminium or something.
Cool.
Yeah. I mean, for a wearable product, right? Maybe fabric's all right, but it's not quite the Apple quality, like the Apple finish. They'll apparently have external cameras that will enable some AR features. Mark specifically says you might be able to type in midair. So like, which is I can't imagine you want to do that. Like, I feel like voice input is the clear front runner for.
Oh my gosh, I was in a BMW SUV with a friend, and they have CarPlay, which is neat. But it's gesture based. You twist your hand in the air. It's a way to change the volume or skip track. Like these finger gestures, and they'd gesture to twist an invisible knob in the air, and that would turn up the volume or decrease the volume or skip the track. Like, that's cool. And that typing with the typing, again.
I guess it's an input method. I don't know. This whole thing sounds very bizarre to me. Like,
it's R&D, but it's going too far.
Yeah, it's like public R&D, like
R&D,
and they're going to ship it with like a prescription lens system and like.
At least Tim
if you were doing like the proper AR glasses, then sure, like you can understand, like, okay, you got to get a prescription lens.
Yeah, Google Glass did that.
Yeah, but for this, $3,000 like semi-developer focused like thing, I don't know. It seems like it's almost like the AR team or whatever had like a deadline to ship a product by now, and they're like, well, this is the best we can ship, so here we go. Like,
if not for Mark, it would be unbelievable.
Yeah, like it does seem kind of outrageous, but
yeah.
I mean, even Mark still hedges in that it might be canned and they'll just wait and do the proper thing in 4 years' time when they can actually do it. But,
yeah, these are definitely things happening inside of Apple, though.
Yeah, if
it
not,
it
is as described, it'll be a very weird Apple product.
Yeah, and if the Mark report isn't correct, then let us know. Apple, let us know.
All right, let's take our second ad break of the show.
Cool.
2020, COVID, that whole shebang. It's just reminded everybody how fragile life is. And there are huge monetary burdens that go along with that you have to worry about. And the cost of living certainly isn't getting less over time. It's only going up. And so that's why for so many people it makes sense to get life insurance, especially term coverage, which can be surprisingly affordable. And you can just pay a little bit each month to protect the ones that you love. And if this is something that you're worried about, choose Ladder for your life insurance plan. Ladder makes it super easy to get coverage, and you can do it really fast. There's no need to arrange in-person meetings. Just go on Ladder and you can apply in a matter of minutes on your phone or on your laptop. You just fill out the application and Ladder's smart algorithms give you an instant reply, so you know immediately if you're approved. There's no commitment, there's no hidden fees, and you can cancel at any time. So if you've been thinking about getting life insurance, Ladder is the place to do it. And if you aren't sure, you're on the fence, but you just want a bit more information, you can again go on Ladder's website, fill out their online calculator, and you can see the costs and term of the plans with no commitment, just to get more information and get more informed. So check out Ladder today to see if you're instantly approved. Go to ladderlife.com/happy hour. That's ladderlife.com/happy hour to sign up and get an application and try it out. One more time, ladderlife.com/happy hour.
Thank you, Ladder, right? Ladder. Ladder.
LADDR.
Okay, because when you say ladder, it sounds like LiDAR to me.
There's no augmented reality in life insurance. Yeah,
no, there's not. So, what's next? We have next.
Well, there's kind of like this kind of general iPhone 13 situation, right? So, we actually had a poll on the phone this week. He's like, do you think it's going to be the iPhone 12s or the iPhone 13? And like, what we know so far about the iPhone, the next iPhone, right? It's going to look largely like the 12s. So it's going to have the boxy design. It's going to obviously support 5G because they're not going to go backwards. But we don't know much else yet. Like, there's supposed to be camera upgrades. There's some notch stuff that's swirling around. But what do you think? Do you think they're going to do 13? Because everyone's like, oh, 13, unlucky for some, it's supposition. Or are they going to do a 12S year? Like, because you could have argued the 12 could have been an 11S, or they could have done, obviously this is all just like Apple make up names, and you can never truly guess what they're going to do. Mm-hmm. But do you think they're hesitant to do 13? Do you think they're going to do it anyway? Like, what do you feel like?
So we had the iPhone, the iPhone 3G, the iPhone 3GS was the speed bump to the iPhone 3G. iPhone 4, big redesign. iPhone 4S had Siri, had a better camera, same design.
You'll need to unlock.
We had face down. We had the iPhone 5 and the iPhone 5S, which were nearly identical designs. I'm sure there was something new in the 5S that the 5 didn't. A Touch ID. This I didn't have, and some camera improvements. And the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus. Then we had the 6S and 6S Plus, same design. iPhone 7 was the same design. They just wanted to get past 6S, and people argued that it's way different externally and internally, but no, it's like the 6SS. We had the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus in the same year as the iPhone 10, and then we had no 9 ever, which I think is bad luck in China anyway. But really, they marketed 8 and 10 to show the generational leap between the designs. Then they would never go back on a number. So there was an iPhone 10s and 10R.
That was the worst year.
I mean, financially, marketing wise, they had to do a lot of work to market those phones, and the R was kind of a rough one because it was like, it sounded like a subversion of the S, but it wasn't. It was like it was an expensive phone. They course corrected to the iPhone 11 because then the base model 11 was the base model in price, whereas 10s was like the premium phone. And then they had 11 Pro and 11 Pro Max, right?
Yeah.
No 11S, and I think that's fair. I think that if you look at the 10, 10R, 10S, 11, those are all the same design language. And then when you go and feature wise, it was all gradual. I like associating a new version number with a new case design. I think that's the easiest to digest for myself.
So what about when they went from 7 to 8?
Yeah, those are all iPhone 6s to me. Like it's 6S, it's 6S, it's 6S, 6SS, 6SSS. But really, the 10 was the start of that year anyway. So who cares? But yeah, when you go from the 10 to 10S, I mean, you have the modifiers with Max versions that are new generations, but you know, it's easier to digest a new number whenever they have a new design. And so to go from 11 to 12, totally justifiable. And we got the name 11 because, you know, what's after 10S, you can't do it. You can't do, there's no like second modifier to it. So we went to 11, which is fine.
Like the 10S Max.
And that was a big course correction too in marketing, because again, you know, the base model phone was the base number, or, you know, base marketing name too. I do think though that even if there's no visual changes, that it's probably better to do a 13 than a 12S, because unless it's so subtle, then sure 12S. But like if there's enough, you know, changes to make a new phone in the first place, then up the version number, even though it will be the same design. Because I feel like 12S is like doing the S modifiers. Those are just like the worst traps to put yourself in marketing wise. Also, Phil Schiller's, you know, mostly retired now, and I think he was a big person in naming the phone. So, you know, he got out of the way before he had to name the iPhone 13 or 12S, whatever it ends up being. But I'm going to say 13 or something entirely different.
Because at some point they've got to stop doing numbers, right?
Yeah. I mean, they don't have to, but they probably will.
Like 13's getting close to that. Like you can't do a 14. Can you?
Yeah, and it's true of Mac OS versions and iOS versions, but they'll still climbing those ladders. But but that's less marketing than the marketing of the phone version. What Samsung's on 21 now?
Yeah.
So, you know, there's no limit, and what did they skip? Like
they went from 10 straight to 20.
Yeah, that's how my 3-year-old counts sometimes. He does all the way. He skips in 10s. Yeah, and we're not going to go from iPhone 12 to 22. So,
and you don't think there'll be any like hesitation about superstition, because obviously that kind of thing. No. I agree on that one.
Once we did iOS 13, I think that's fine.
It kind of put it down in the coffin. I mean, what have they sold for years and years and years? The MacBook 13-inch, and they call it 13 inches. So
I think iOS 13 was good.
Yeah, 13 was okay.
Yeah, dark mode, right?
Dark mode. It did have dark mode.
Yeah, that's all that matters. That dark mode. So make some cool phones. Call them 13. Cool. Call them 14.
So
you know.
I think I agree with you. 13 over 12S, even if it's a small year, right?
Yeah,
why not?
Doing the S years. I mean, they didn't do it since the 6S until the 10S, and the 10S was a hard year to market the phones. So and the big thing is Schiller's not naming phones now. It's hard to know. So what can Jaws do differently?
What's Jaws going to call them?
Yeah, what's Jaws going to call them? So.
One of the supposed new changes that is currently like we haven't had the big like definitive iPhone schematics.
iPhone 12 Bionic, like they're going to do that kind of thing.
Yeah, like we haven't had the schematics yet. That, you know, generally comes around January, February, or we haven't had like we haven't seen a load of dummy models, you know, and all that stuff happen yet. But there are a lot of rumors that the notch is finally getting smaller this year. You've got Macatakara saying it, you've got Digitime saying it. There's a bit of disagreement over in what way the notch is getting smaller, but everyone agrees it's getting smaller. So Macatakara said that they're gonna move the earpiece, you know, like the top receiver upwards into the frame, which then means the notch can get smaller in height, right? Because right now you have every single component just in a line. You've got from left to right, you've got infrared camera, flood illuminator, proximity sensor, ambient light sensor, speaker, microphone, front camera, dot projector. So they just go straight across horizontally, right? So you have quite a wide notch. The idea is, with Macatakara's opinion, they're going to make the speaker part go upwards, so it'd basically be in the very top bezel, like the top border, and that means you can obviously shrink the height of it by pushing the sides inwards. What Digitime said is that the width is going to change because they're actually going to combine the dot projector and the receiver, like the thing that actually catches the dots on the way back, into a single unit. And that's more like the LiDAR sensor on the back of the iPhone 11, on the back of the iPhone 12, because like the LiDAR scanner is only one hole, right? but it's doing both things. It's shooting out dots and it's receiving them.
Okay.
Whereas currently on the notch, on the front, the true depth camera system, those things are two separate components. So Digitimes says they're going to get combined, which then means it can get smaller in width. So maybe we'll have it smaller in height and width. But in some way, the notch is supposed to get smaller, which would be nice to see because it hasn't changed since the iPhone 10, right? And it does, you look at the market, and all of the rest of the market has adopted basically fingerprint scanners, either in the power button or under the screen, right? And so they don't have as much of limitations of they need to have this big space for the the infrared stuff. And so you see quite a lot of Android phones even having pinhole cameras now, so tiny little dots, which are the front-facing cameras, and the rest of the thing is just screen. So Apple's notch situation is looking more and more dated by the day.
Mm-hmm. The only change in the notch is the 11 Pro Max just has more screen around the notch, but the notch is the same size. Is that right?
Yes. And technically, if you want to be super technical, the 12 mini notch is slightly smaller.
Because it has to be to fit things in there.
Yeah, so it's slightly smaller. I mean, I'm happy with the smaller notch. I definitely think that the 10 design is showing its age a little bit. I still love the gesture and stuff, but you look at the top of the screen, it's that kind of is kind of. It
doesn't bother me in the least this year, and I think I have a lot of time before it starts to bother me with the iPhone.
The thing is, it doesn't bother
design.
me
Well, the iPhone 7 design bothered me. Come on,
yes.
Look at the competition, and this is the same outline of a phone that we've had for ages.
Yeah, I mean, it's nowhere close to the iPhone 7 situation.
Yeah, but what I like about this rumor this time, because we've had smaller notch rumors every single year since the 10 came out, is that there's logic behind it. It's not just it's a rumor that the notch is going to get smaller. This is how they're going to enable that.
Yeah,
which again, that's an external redesign. That's a reason to call it 13.
That's true. Well, I don't. If they didn't do it, I'd be whatever. What I really want them to do this year is ProMotion. High frame rate, I feel has to come to at least the Pro models of the 13, right? ProMotion is a really nice feature that they've had on the iPad for so long. So many Android phones have high refresh rate to screens, not necessarily 120, but loads of them go to 90. Even phones that are way cheaper than even the iPhone 12, but the highest end iPhones at the moment just have the same 60 hertz refresh rate screens. And that changes.
Yeah. Does that affect the playback of a slow motion video at 120? I know
you're seeing more frames. If you.
I mean, that's slowing it down, but if you
played the 120 hertz video at normal speed, you would then see all the frames in the same second. Whereas on a current iPhone, it has to cut out half the frames.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So if you go on slow-mo mode on the iPad, you're actually seeing every frame.
And then you watch the especially if you're right and you're watching the parts of the video that weren't slowed down, for example.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. If it's recording at that frame rate, then you see every single frame. And obviously, even things like video, you can have higher frame rate video. You just have nice animations, scrolling can be really smooth.
Right, and on the iPad, where they've used ProMotion since the it was the 10.5-inch version of the Pro, right?
Yeah,
and then the 12.9-inch Pro that got that. But so before the modern design of an iPad, they control when it's 120 and when it's not. Scrolling will be 120, but looking at a static home screen won't be. And so they definitely have intelligence about it. They have a lot of features that are battery intensive. Where just because it's on a mobile device doesn't mean it has to be a battery hog, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it is harder to do it on OLED than it is to do it on LCD, which is why it's taken longer to come to the iPhone. Yeah. But it has started happening on Android, I'd say last year. The second half of last year, there were a lot of Android phones with OLED screens that had higher refresh rates.
That's the reason to call it 13.
Yeah. So let's hope it comes to the iPhone 13 at least. Yeah. Happy Hour this week is also sponsored by Guardian, the best way to increase the privacy of your iPhone when browsing the web or using apps. Guardian works by routing all your internet traffic on iOS through their secure firewall and VPN. The VPN is encrypted and fast, and it acts as a tunnel for all of your phone's network usage. And you can set all this up in just one tap. The Guardian firewall runs seamlessly in the background on iPhone or iPad. You know that thing in Safari, they added in Safari 14 or iOS 14, where it like shows you how many trackers on this web page.
Mhm.
Well, basically Guardian is like that, but for your entire phone. So across all your apps, it knows what each of the individual apps you're like contacting, and it can find those trackers. It can block them. It can let you know. So I always think back to the reports where you had those like unscrupulous weather apps that would collect your location data and send them to other people. Well, Guardian could identify that for you. You don't have to wait for it to turn up in the news. You can just see all the kinds of trackers that are embedded in apps that are trying to communicate with the outside world. You get alerted when a new tracker is detected, and all communication from that tracker is automatically blocked by the firewall. It's only up to you to let it go through. And because it's a VPN, it also means that your IP address is masked from third parties. Every free App Store app that you use contains an average of at least 2 data trackers, and Guardian Firewall can help put a stop to that. It's brought to you by the same people that are in the jailbreak community dedicated to breaking iOS apart. They expose vulnerabilities so that you're further and further protected on iOS. They know what they're doing. So give Guardian a try. Download the app to receive 3 days free with 0 commitment or $10 off the Guardian Pro membership at guardianapp.com/happy hour. That's GUARDIAN app.com/happy hour.
Yeah, seriously, thanks, Guardian, for sponsoring. And Will Straffic, I think is how you say his last name. He's at Chronic on Twitter, I believe. I met him in 2013 when my first time at a WWDC. Like you said, the same community that does jailbreaking, back in the day and everything, and like they know this stuff inside and out. And so Guardian, it's like one of the only types of service that I trust like this because they just know this stuff inside and out, and they've broken a lot of news in terms of apps, not following the rules on iOS. So they've done a lot of great work in this area. So check out Guardian. Thanks for sponsoring. All right, Mayo, you want to talk about
our favorite Apple product, the iPad.
The iPad. No, I put it in the notes because we talk off and on about the way that I'm using the iPad and if I am or not and that kind of thing. And it's 10 years on, if it doesn't replace your computer or PC or Mac, and you have a smartphone, especially a screen's bigger, it can be hard to find a thing to do with your iPad, a reason to have it. It's like it's cool, but like what is it for? And I mean the fact that it's a big touchscreen still is the selling point for me, I think. And then from there I find things to do with it. This past week I found a daily use for my iPad, which is are you familiar with the New York Times?
You mean the newspaper?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard of them.
They also do a crossword puzzle, which has its roots in the newspaper, and the New York Times has a crossword app. I'm sure there's tons of crossword apps on iOS. The New York Times is the one that I went to, and I installed it on the iPad, and then one night this past week I was like, can we do a crossword puzzle? And they had these little very small mini puzzles that you could do, and I did it, and I felt stimulated, and I felt good, and I figured out the words and everything. And then I got into like a full size one, and I was doing it with a friend, and we were honestly having a good time. And an hour and a half went by, and I did this crossword puzzle on the iPad, and it was like the perfect form factor for that, because it's like it's a tablet, it's not a computer where you're like doing it and then put on a mouse and keyboard, and it's not an actual piece of paper, that kind of thing. It's like your phone where it's tiny and you got to like navigate around. It's a lot of fun, and that's become part of my routine. A few nights a week is to do a crossword puzzle on the iPad. And so now I look at my iPad, I have affection for it. It's like, oh, that's my crossword puzzle machine, and it's not a pro version, it's an Air, so it's a good value. The other thing is I wanted to talk about is a bit of workflow stuff. So, we talked last week about how, we're talking about the SD card coming back to the SD card slot coming back to the Mac on a future version this year, maybe. And I told you then, well, my camera now has got USB-C, so and then it's got 2 SD card slots, so it's actually more convenient for me to just use a USB-C cable to plug into the computer and import photos that way. But it turns out, the iPad Air has USB-C as well. So something I actually do when I'm out, shooting anything, but specifically for Space Explorer, a rocket launch, and take pictures of the rocket is, you can do things like you can take pictures, and you can send the JPEG over to the iPhone and then share it that way, and then it does it over Wi-Fi, etc. And it's not terrible, but I like to keep the camera in airplane mode so it keeps battery life, and you don't have to fiddle with an app and everything. So what I do is I keep my iPad in my camera backpack now. And after I'm shooting something, the fastest way, if I don't have my Mac with me, the fastest way to review the photos and find the good ones and edit them out is on the iPad. And this is like common sense, popular use of the iPad, but for me, I'm just getting into it. Is plug the camera, because it's got USB-C, directly to the iPad Air, not even the Pro version, just over the cable, and import the pictures. I'm using Lightroom for this, and I've never had to do the thing where Lightroom can't import. I fast forwarded all the way to the part where it just works, without a shortcut or something hacky, because the Photos app won't see the raw files in there at all. So I'm doing them in Lightroom, and they just, I plug up the camera. It's like in the sidebar as a device. I tap it, I import from there. And it's really cool. And I keep the pencil in my backpack now as well. And I pull out the pencil. Usually it's dead. I attach it to the iPad for a few seconds. It's got some power, and then I can do a lot more editing than I think it's very natural and fast editing. So I do it with the pencil there, and then I put it back in the camera bag, and put the iPad back in there, and start the pictures. And it's become a routine. So I'm really happy with my iPad now. I've got. I did buy the smart keyboard or Magic Keyboard accessory again for it, because it's a good stand and everything. But in this new way that I'm using the iPad, I'm never using it as a stand. And with the M1 MacBook Air, I'm taking that MacBook Air with me almost everywhere. It won't fit in my camera backpack when the camera backpack is packed, so that's where the iPad is just always there with me. But if I take a second bag, it goes in there, or if I just carry it on its own. So I'm having a lot of fun doing that.
So do you just like transfer the photos on it, or are you doing editing, or are you actually like, see what I mean? Because if you're just transferring the photos over, then it's like a portable hard drive. But
right. No. I'm definitely editing with wherever I transfer to, and so if I take my motorcycle, I'm not going to carry a couple of bags. I'm just going to carry one bag and travel like that way. It's my camera backpack, which has room for a tablet, not a computer. And so the iPad's in there, and that's what I'm going to use. If I use, if I take my car, which I do less frequently, then I'll just pack everything up because I've got the space for it. And then I'll use the MacBook. And that's usually if I'm going to go for, more than a few hours, and then I've got everything with me. But yeah, I'm editing on whatever I import into, and I've done both. I've done the MacBook Air as well. But yeah, it's definitely the pencil is super easy to control, because I'm not a Lightroom user, and I'm just starting to get into it. And so doing that on the iPad was very natural. Or on the Mac, it's like, how do you do this thing? I'm used to using Pixelmator, for example. And then the other thing I want to talk about is just ways, in doing Space Explored, it's given me a new approach to how I use technology, because I don't have to use just the Apple stuff. Because with 9 to 5 Mac, it's like there's a lot of incentive to just use the Apple stuff, because it gives you experience. You can work off of your experience and write stories about your experience that way, and it keeps you familiar with what you're writing about. With Space Explorer, I'm able to say, what is the Apple stuff that fits in because it's the best thing for me, or is there something else that's better for me? The biggest example is just using a DSLR camera instead of the iPhone, primarily. For 9 to 5 Mac, there's not really an opportunity to use a DSLR and make that integrated in your work, except for just product shots, which you can do with an iPhone. So I like it because I feel like when I'm using Apple products to write about Apple products, it's just a loop, and it's not that refreshing. And to use Apple products for things that are about more than writing about the product itself, like it feels very weird. It feels like weird to write about the MacBook Air on the MacBook Air for the sake of the MacBook Air, But
I always get that when I'm like reviewing like the laptop or the new phone. It's like I'm literally just typing on the same product that I'm criticizing.
And you have to use something to review it, but then do you have to keep using it off, after the review, if reviewing it to evaluate it, not because it's the thing that you're in love with? And I'm in love with the MacBook Air. It's amazing. So it's stuck around, and because it is so light, like this past weekend, I was shooting a rocket engine test, and I used this is how it's kind of becoming a pattern where now it's something that, well, no, this is what I'm doing every time now. If I've got the MacBook with me, I set up the MacBook and I stream on YouTube from the MacBook with a Canon camcorder and like a I don't know what you call them, but it's like from HDMI to USB. Cam link, I guess, is what you call them from Elgato. I think that's what I'm talking about. But I use that in like a 50-foot HDMI cable, and then hotspot from the phone, and I'm streaming. I'm kind of using the Mac in like in a way that you would see Apple portray in product, marketing kind of things, like this super portable thing in the age of wireless, your wireless internet, and the cable is only there to take the video feed over, and it's broadcasting through the computer. That's made me feel good about a way I use my MacBook Air, not just for the sake of testing it, but how I'm using it. And then with the iPhone, I found that even when I take close-up shots of a rocket, there's every single time a little bit more interest in what video I capture from the iPhone, which is also on a tripod, shooting video, because it's from what you see with your eyes perspective, and it's going to capture different things. That it's like being there. So the iPhone is like, I always will capture something with the iPhone now for that same reason. And I'm enjoying that. It's like the iPad doesn't come out until afterwards, and it doesn't have to be there every time. But I'm definitely enjoying like new ways of using the products that I've had. Like I got into 9to5 Mac 8 years ago because I loved the Mac, and I liked the iPhone, and I was coming off of the iPod and everything, and almost a decade goes by and you're still in it because it's your job at that point, not because it's the thing that you have to have. And so it's fun to be able to step back and just reevaluate what am I using in
slightly different angle on things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And as I realize different workflows of like what I'm doing, it's like I never would need to stream video from a camcorder because it's got way more zoom than just a webcam with 9to5 Mac, like what we're doing now. And I'm using the 4K webcam on the Mac. It's all integrated. So it's fun to see those challenges of like, well, how do I stream this and zoomed in close up, power the camera. The 50-foot HDMI cable was amazing because it's like the Mac can literally be in my car out of the sun, and the camcorder can be out in the open on a tripod, and it can be 50 feet away. It's neat.
I mean, that is literally like what they put in an advert, and then I'd say, this is an unrealistic advert. Why would anybody do that?
Right. And I'm doing it because it's necessary. It's like, I feel like I'm actually using these things. Like, back to the iPad circle thing there for a minute, I used to feel funny about sitting in a coffee shop with my iPhone and my iPad and kind of doing the same thing on both of them, and we've come a long way since then. There's way different potential with what you can do on an iPad than on a phone itself, but a phone on its own. But yeah, I'm happy about being able to use these things in the wild for different purposes and just evaluating them for 9to5 Mac, and it's neat. It's giving me new use cases. Oh, last thing, we usually record the podcast with Rode Podcaster microphones, and I've been having some issues with mine wearing out after 8 years, in the long run. But I've had a Blue Yeti microphone for travel because it's got the integrated stand and everything. And when I'm not traveling, I've found a way to repurpose it usefully, which is the camcorder for a video is there for the visual, but it's not gonna have the best microphone, and you can add stuff to it, but whatever. I've been bringing out the Yeti microphone to record sound all around from that in a higher quality because it's just a better microphone than what you're going to have on a camcorder, or the iPhone, for example. And so that's something else that my MacBook is doing is before I launch, I'll open up QuickTime and I'll start recording in high quality. And then I'll go back afterwards and I'll trim the clip based on the looking at it visually. Oh, there's the loud part out of 8 minutes. There's the 3 minutes of launch engines roaring, and I'll trim it down. And it's just like a neat way to capture just more of the experience. There's the photography, there's the video, but then having high quality audio as its own thing is a neat way to relive that moment, or if you weren't there, to experience it.
Get it all together.
Yeah.
Like, I'm glad that you found like an actual use for your iPad again, because I still struggle with that. Like I haven't charged my iPad in like weeks. Like
there's a reason you don't upgrade every year or version.
Yeah, I mean, I like the thing is, when I'm using the iPad, I enjoy it, right? I'm like, this is fun. Like, I'm watching this video, I'm browsing Twitter in the nicest way, I'm, going on the web and doing stuff. But then it's like, it's literally, I can't get any value out of it that isn't just doing it for fun. Do you know what I mean? And something that I only literally exclusively use just for fun, it's really hard to like upgrade that on a regular schedule. And since they revamped the multitasking stuff, which was what, like 3 years ago now, I still kind of hate it. Like, I'm like, I want to put two things side by side. The fun's sapping out my body. Like,
yeah.
You open a Safari window in the slide over mode, like this little skinny column that floats over the top, right? How do you close the window? Like,
yeah, the way that I'm using my iPad involves no multitasking at all.
Yeah. Like, if I want to get any value out of it at all, right? I'm going to be multitasking with it in some way, right? Right? And the multitasking just isn't good enough. And since they changed it, every single year that they've changed it, I've been like, please, can they change it back or change it again to actually make it work well? And it annoys me so much.
It is very good for watching movies on an airplane.
It is great for watching movies on, but I'm not going to buy a movie watching machine.
But not when you're like it's. I think about that too. It's like if I want to watch TV, I'll use a TV.
Yeah, exactly. Like I used to watch my iPad a lot in bed when I basically like watch YouTube and then have Twitter going on, right? As when I'm winding down and just watch something. But now I've just started doing that on my phone because it's like, well, the iPad's not charged. It's over there. Why do I need it? Like,
there are some things like in theory, FaceTime is better on the iPad than on the iPhone, especially because you can, if you're doing group FaceTime, you've got much more of a canvas for that to be laid out. But then in practice, it's like, if I'm not using a stand, where do I put it if I don't want to hold it? And it's big and immersive, but it's also big.
And the phone's in your pocket, right? Like,
yeah.
I don't know. Like, I really hope that I can find like the iPad comes back into my life somehow.
Yeah,
even if they just made the multitasking nice again, I'd probably upgrade and just to have it as another generation of fun. Do you know what I mean? But the multitasking just annoys me so much. But whatever.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there's some cool Apple Watch news. We'll take our last break and we can dive into that.
Cool.
Convenience cooking without sacrificing on quality. That's what Sunbasket is for. It's even easier than ever with Sunbasket to have delicious nutritional meals delivered direct to your home. Sunbasket fresh and ready meals are just $8.99 each. Good for your body and good for your budget. Sunbasket meals are made with premium quality, real ingredients. That means organic fresh produce, sustainably sourced seafood, and meat is antibiotic and hormone free. Their chefs have won Michelin stars and a James Beard Award. So why not take the night off and let them cook for you? Try delicious meals such as buttery chicken with basmati rice pilaf, beef chili with cheddar and Greek yogurt, or creamy mushroom penne with baby spinach and almonds. Fresh and ready meals come freshly prepared. There's no recipe to follow or preparation needed. Put them straight in the oven and they heat up in as little as 6 minutes. All you have to do is heat and eat. It means no mess in your kitchen and far less cleanup than a traditionally prepared meal. And of course, Sunbasket have options for paleo diets, vegetarian, Mediterranean, and gluten-free options as well to check out. So right now, Sunbasket is offering $35 off your order when you go to sunbasket.com/happyhour and enter promo code happyhour, all one word, at checkout. That's sunbasket.com/happyhour, promo code happyhour at checkout for $35 off your order. Sunbasket.com/happyhour.
I am so hungry after hearing about creamy chicken and almonds, and man, cool. Apple Watch stuff. So we were talking about this week, planning on planning the episode, things to talk about, and I kind of put together a list of grab bag topics that I wanted to include. And one was the Apple Watch face that I'm using right now, which is the it's called Solar Dial is the name of it, and it's the one that people kind of hate because it's pretty complex, but it's very pretty too. And I've used it in the past and enjoyed it and then gone back to other watch faces. But what I'm liking about it this week, and the reason I'm using it right now, is that during the daytime it's a blue face. It's like bright blue because it shows kind of the status of the sky and when the sun's positioned. And at night it's like a darker blue kind of night sky version. But the Apple Watch that I'm wearing is the Series 6 aluminum red with the red band, and the combination of this is what struck me different this time because of the first time I'm using it on this watch is the blue watch face with the red band just looks really cool together. It's in the same way that mixing the case color with the band color is neat. It's like, oh, doing that with the watch face and the band too is I feel like it's kind of striking in a way. And I've gotten really into using the compass, which came in Series 5, and I was like, that's pointless. And I'm finally enjoying using the compass because I live in a new location and I cannot, based on just using the highways mostly, I've not got my bearings on as to what direction I'm looking at any given point. And I kind of, where I came from, it was anything to the south was the water. The east is the Atlantic Ocean, the west is the Pacific Ocean, and then up north is, the rural area. And it's very easy to know where I am, what direction I'm looking at, and it kind of brings a sense of comfort in knowing that where you are, and where I live now in Orlando, it's things are all over the place, and I'm never sure, is that the way of the ocean or is that the way of whatever else? And so I've enjoyed using the compass as a complication, and I'm doing that as one of the complications, date and weather, and there's one more. There's always one complication that I like to change out and about. So there's the fourth for that, and then you can have the clock face. This is something else I like about this watch face that I want to mention is that you can have the clock face be analog, and it's a circle within the larger circle of the sundial basically, and the default is analog, but you can change it to be digital. And I use the digital version. I can use either watch face type. I'm good with either one, but a full size analog clock is good. What I like about this watch face is even if you use a digital version, because it's still based on a circle, I think it looks really good. It looks like it's an analog face, but it's not. You can do then there's digital inside because the full circle isn't the clock. It's the status of the sun. And then when you do digital, you get a second hand basically because the tick marks are on the dial.
They put little tick marks around it, yeah.
Yeah, and I like that because I like to be able to look, see like it's 527, but is it almost 528? Like how close are we there? And so that's useful. So I'm really enjoying this one, and it hit me in a different way this week than it has in the past.
Yeah, because we kind of mocked it before, right? I don't know. I've loaded it up now after your little soliloquy about it.
Mm-hmm.
I still hate it. So.
What else is really good about it? I'm taking more photos lately, not just with my iPhone, but with my Canon EOS R6. And you look at it, it's like, oh, it's a really pretty version of the watch face because it's showing sunset. It's like, I should go take an actual look out the window or go outside and take an actual picture of that. It's a good indicator of that.
Yeah, I still prefer the other solar face, the original one. That one's cool.
Yeah,
the solar dial, not for me.
Count me down as a solar dial fan.
Well, can I sway you? Because in WatchOS 7.3, which is just released candidate today, there is a new watch face out of the blue. It's called Unity, and it's like it's like digital time, so it's kind of numerals like because it's got like the hours on the top and the minutes on the bottom, right? But it's got two colors, so like green and red, or you can customize them. It's inspired by the Pan-African flag, and what happens is as you move your watch, the kind of blocks of color move around. So it kind of responds to the movement of the watch.
Motion?
Yeah, with motion, yeah.
Okay.
So they don't just move on their own. You move your watch around and it like does a little like masking effect. So where the like square of green is, when it goes over the time, it inverts the color. So the color's like, say if it's like 16 is the hour, so 16 is in 4 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
When the green square goes over the green text, the text becomes black. So you get this kind of like opposite effect, which is pretty cool. It's kind of like it's a cool look.
I'm literally going to 9to5 Mac right now to look at the watch face because it's in the beta basically. It's not out yet.
Yeah. It's basically like the final beta.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you get the choice of black or grey, red, black and green, and red, black and yellow. So it's not unlimited color options, but that's based on the Pan-Africana flag.
Cool. Kind of gives me Pixar vibes. Like Toy Story vibes, like the logo Toy Story.
Yeah, so if you like those colors, like this is one thing I like. Obviously, they're inspired by the flag, right? But if you're just wearing it day to day, like I think they should just let you have any colors you want, or like a much bigger color palette. Because only having red and green, and like if you don't like red and green, you're kind of out of luck. But That's what I think. The effect is really cool. Like you just move your hand around and it just shifts. Like it doesn't happen instantly, but
it's a cool demo.
Yeah. It's like it's a cool little watch face they've just thrown in the very.
Well, if they put this in WatchOS 7.3, then that means WatchOS 8 is going to be a big deal, right?
Yeah, because otherwise they'd have saved the watch face for the summer.
Yeah. Cool.
Maybe they have actually good sleep tracking in WatchOS 8.
This is cool.
And the other thing, because the release notes came out because it's the release candidate.
Yeah.
Time to Walk is official.
One second, I want to read the description of the watch face of the new watch. This is from in the Apple Watch app. It has the description of the face.
Yep.
It gives you more into it. Red represents the blood that unites the people of the African. How do you say this word? Diaspora. I would have said it wrong. And was shed for their liberation. Black is for the people whose lives are affirmed by the flag, and green is a symbol of the vibrant natural wealth of Africa, the motherland. Cool. I like that. It's good culture that things I didn't know about, and I'll read more about later. Time to Walk. What's going on?
Yeah. It's a cool. Honestly, it's a cool face. I'll definitely try it out, and I'll update soon. So Time to Walk, which we talked about last week, right? That was the fitness feature where you're getting guided audio workouts. Well, now it's officially announced by Apple. It is exclusive to Fitness Plus, so you have to have Fitness Plus,
of course.
And they describe it as an audio experience where guests in your ear share inspiring stories as you walk around.
I like that. That's cool.
So they're going to tell you a little story as you...
Which is not what we predicted entirely, right?
It doesn't seem like it's going to be like a motivating, 4 miles to go, 2 miles to go, get faster. It's just famous people or celebrities or important people telling you a story as you walk around.
I like that very much. I've done runs with Nike Run Club where they're the guided runs, but they'll be themed. So someone will talk about, a loss or a struggle or something, and they'll tie it in with, not just keep going, but then they'll integrate it with the story or with the workout. And I like that. This is much more casual, it seems. Are there any examples of what we can expect? Who we should expect?
I think we're waiting for the content to show in the Fitness Plus tab on the phone.
Okay, and the actual thing to be live, because right now
because we see in the release notes, but it's server side, right? They have to add the content.
Sure. So probably next week.
I'm sure we'll talk about this next week as well. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
That's cool.
Time to walk.
Time to walk. And of course, 7.3 also brings the ECG app and irregular heart rate rhythm notifications to more countries. They're still rolling out ECG around the world. Japan, Philippines, Taiwan, Thailand. Get it. So nice.
Cool.
I'm looking forward to trying out the Time to Walk stuff.
Yeah. If anybody ever wants to go for a walk and they want, maybe this could be a paid service for us that we talk you through it. I'm down.
Yeah, I mean, a different way of phrasing the Time to Walk for Fitness Plus subscribers get an audio experience in the workout app. It's Time to Fitness Plus subscribers get a podcast.
Right, exactly.
That's what it sounds like. Inspiring stories as you walk. It's like a little podcast by guests. It just depends who the guests are, what the stories are, as to how compelling it is. But I'll definitely give this a go. It sounds cool.
Totally. Cool. Nice. All right. I think that is the happy hour podcast for this week. Am I right?
Indeed it is.
Good to know. So yeah, that is the happy hour podcast for this week. If you enjoy
is
the
it the happy hour podcast this week?
I think so. Hang on. Yes, it is. If you enjoy the show, please subscribe. We are on Apple Podcasts, on Overcast, on Spotify, and everywhere else you get your podcast. If you have any feedback, you can email Ben and I together. We are at happyhour@9to5mac.com. I am on Twitter at ApolloZac. That's APOLLOZAC. And you can read my space coverage on spaceexplorer.com. And I do a weekly podcast called the Space Explorer Podcast as well. Benjamin, you're on Twitter at
BZAMayo.
And you blog at
9to5Mac and bzamayo.com.
I've been blogging at 9to5Mac too. It's a lot of fun.
I know, it's crazy.
It's kind of cool. With that being said, we'll be back next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.